What's up? What's up? What's up? It is your girl, Pastor Courage Molina of Dose of Courage Community Church. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you are watching this live doing TGIW, go ahead and drop the city that you're in. I'd love to see where y'all are. I really feel like I want to get out in these streets again. I'm not saying I'm coming out in the streets, but I'm saying I want to start thinking about getting out in these streets. And so drop your city so I can see maybe I'm coming to a city near you. You don't know. Okay, so listen, it's the summer. Happy 4th of July, right? That just happened. And I was thinking about what is this next series going to be? I really want to start doing series on this YouTube channel, mostly because if you do a series, it's just easier. Honestly, it's literally it's way easier to come up with content if you do it in a series. So that's a little something for you. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, that's a little tip for you. You're welcome. It's way easier to create content when you create a series, whether that's for emails, podcasts, whatever. And so the CEO squad was here today. Amber and Olivia were here at the house today. And we were just talking about okay, I knew I was going to go live today, that I wasn't going to have an edited production type video. I knew I was going to go live, but I was really trying to figure out okay, if I'm going to go live the first Wednesday of every month, so what am I going to do? And so, what I decided to do? Well, they helped me come up with this idea. So I can't take full credit because thanks, Amber and Olivia. They came up with this idea. They helped me come up with this idea. I've decided to do a summer book reading series, kinda ish, or a book launch. I don't really know what to call it. I don't know what to call. Okay, how about this? We're gonna be talking about my book. We're gonna be talking about my book, and I don't mean I'm gonna be telling you oh, the book is about this or the book is about that. That's not what I mean. I mean, we are going to be the focus for this book series. It's either going to be a 4-part. I think it's going to be a 4-part series. It could be a 6-part series, but I think it's going to be a 4-part series. We'll just see how it goes. This is part 1. And okay, so the name of the book, I don't know if you know this, I wrote this book, Power Principles of Courageous Living, How I Overcame Depression and Took Back My Life, by Courage Molina, forward by Sybil Amuti, co-founder of The Great Girlfriends. If you don't know Sybil, you should definitely check her out. She is amazing. The Great Girlfriends podcast is one of my favorite podcasts, and it was one of the first podcasts I ever listened to. It was probably the first podcast I ever listened to, and that made me fall in love with podcasts and made me want to be a podcaster. Yeah. So we're going to do a little series. And so tonight, I got my bottles of water right here. Probably should have had tea. It's fine. Tonight, I want to read an excerpt from the book. So Power Principles of Courageous Living. This book it's kind of about my life, right? It certainly tells you about my life and kind of how I got here, how I became who I am. But it also gives you the 5 principles that changed my life, the 5 principles that I live by. So while it seems like it's just a book about my life, that's probably one of the things that I would change about it. While it seems like it's just a book about my life, so if you're interested in my life, you should buy the book. It is so much more than that. This book is really going to help you boost your confidence, and it's going to help to improve your self-esteem. It's going to, if you start applying the principles that you get from this book, it's going to give you peace in difficult situations. It's going to give you the strength and the courage to really step out on faith. It's going to give you the confidence to start building great relationships. It is going to help you put your faith to work. It is going to give you the motivation and inspiration to, really get serious about your personal and your spiritual growth. And if you have ever been coached by me, so many of the principles that I create my coaching programs from really got their start from the power principles of courageous living. That's the seed. That's that's the foundation. That's where everything starts. I can't even really coach you as an entrepreneur if you don't have these things as a foundation, right? Just real quick, the power principles of courageous living. There are 5 of them. I'm going to read them right from the book because I thought about changing them, but I'm not going to change them. They're really good. Oh, yeah, no, I got this. Power principle number 1, you are who God says you are. That is about the power of identity. Then I teach you the power of forgiveness. Forgiveness is freedom. Then I teach you about faith, the power of faith. You have to put your faith to work. Then I talk to you about relationships, the power of relationships. Healthy relationships are the life jacket, right? They're the substance of what makes up your life jacket. And I don't just mean relationships with other people. I mean your relationships with your words, your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with others. And then last but certainly not least, growth is not optional, it's required. So if you're going to say yes to the call in your life, I truly believe that you have to embrace courage as a lifestyle, and this book will help you to do that. So without any further ado, if listen, how many of you have actually, I don't even want to ask this question because I feel like my feelings are gonna low key be hurt a little bit. But I could probably take it. I could take it. It's why I'm doing this anyway. So it's fine. I could do it. Yeah, okay, yeah, I could do it. So listen, how many of you have a copy of the book? You have a copy of this book. Got my copy in the chat. Got my copy. How many of you have a copy of this book? I'm gonna just put got my copy, right? And how many of you have read the book? So you're putting got my copy. And if you've read the book, put a 1 in the chat. If you have read the book, put a 1 in the chat. So got my copy if you got it, and then put a 1 in the chat if you've read it. The reason I said it's probably going to hurt my feelings because there are so many people that know and love me, so many people that I have served and that I serve every week that have never read this book. And what you have to remember when you write a book, right, especially a book like this one, is that you cannot allow your ego and your sensitivities to get in the way. And baby, your girl is a little bit more sensitive. I feel like Erykah Badu. Keep in mind, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my artistry, right? Like, I don't think that I realized like how vulnerable you have to be, not just to write the book, but to promote the book. And if I'm honest, I feel like it's a phenomenal read. Let me just say that it's a phenomenal read, and it's a great way for you to start applying some of the principles that I teach in my programs. So you can start applying them there. The other reason I think it's a great read is because it really helps you to see, 1, what it takes, and to 2, see that the people that you see and you know right now, no matter how great they look, they've been through something. They've lived through something. And I pull back the curtain on a lot of things that I have been through. And so that I may not talk about like on a public platform in the detail in which I've talked about it in this book. For sure. So you definitely want to get the book. Another thing is writing a book, especially a book like this, is one of the easiest ways to get people like the help. You know what I'm saying? It's one of the easiest ways. Everybody can't afford coaching. Everyone doesn't have the money for coaching, but baby, the book is $25. You know what I'm saying? At some point, you can put enough money aside to make that happen, right? And have it delivered to you. If you haven't gotten a copy, I probably should have did this before, but it's fine. Let me go ahead and put it up there now. You can go to couragemolina.org/shop and get your copy. Let me just edit that. Get your book. You can get a copy of Power Principles Courageous Living. Let me make it a scroll so it can be at the bottom going on the whole time. You can get your book at couragemolina.org/shop. Y'all probably like, when are you going to get to the reading? I promise you, I'm about to start reading right now. And so I'm going to start on page 8. I start right now on page 8. Um, and okay, so y'all ready? Let's get into it. All right, page 8. As a kid, I always lived near my cousins, my aunts, and my grandparents. So naturally, my cousins were my first and best friends. We were always together. We had sleepovers, and we were usually the only guests at each other's birthday parties or special events. My cousin Antarius and I were together a lot as kids. There are tons of pictures of us as toddlers together in a wagon at a parade, at the park, and even in the bathtub. I was only 2 years older than him, and I called him my twin cousin because we were so close, and we still are. Our mamas, our sisters, our mamas are sisters, and they lived within walking distance of each other our entire childhood. There was even a time where we all lived together. When we were in elementary school, our cousin Duranda, my A1, lived in NSB, and we spent a tremendous amount of time together. We were inseparable and always wanted to spend the night at the same house. As you can imagine, it could be a bit tricky to get a relative to take all three of us overnight, but we had a system. Just think, who would sign up for 3 extra mouths to feed, put up with our giggling, shenanigans, refereeing our disagreements? I can tell you one thing, we did not stay at my house much. You ever heard of a yes man? Well, my mama is the complete opposite. She's a no ma'am. She wore that like a badge of honor. Mama, can it Terrace and Duranda spend the night? No, ma'am. Good thing for us, we were clever enough to have a system. We would start at the top where we all love to stay. This was the golden ticket of sleepover houses, the creme de la creme. Our very first stop on the Can We Spend the Night at Your House Will Be Good tour was Auntie Hazel's house. Auntie Hazel is Antarius's mom, and we adored her and loved staying over at her house. There were so many reasons why, but let me tell you the top three. Auntie Hazel had the best cereal. Please understand that not all cereals are created equal, and to kids, the brighter the color, bigger prizes, and most sugar wins. She had Fruit Loops, Sugar Smacks, Count Chocula, the berry version too. One time she even had Zelda cereal. Zelda! Sometimes she would have more than one kind at a time, and we could pick whichever one we wanted. Auntie Hazel knew what breakfast was all about, and we loved her for it. They also had an original Nintendo. Do you remember those huge gray cartridges you had to blow if the game started to act up? We got lost in those overly pixelated dreamscapes, fighting, racing, or collecting coins for hours on end. Another thing that made Auntie Hazel's house so special was she always had these cute little purple velvet pouches filled with money. It was all loose change, but to a kid, it felt like a ton of money. The thing is, it was more than just the money and all the treats we could buy with the money. We would pretend those cute little purple pouches were from like places from far, far away, and Auntie Hazel was bestowing to us bits and pieces of a secret treasure from somewhere. And one day, when we were old enough, she would unveil the treasure and we would live happily ever after, like they did in all those Disney movies. There was something special, something magical about those cute little purple pouches as a kid. Now, what wasn't so magical were the off times where she would tell us no. When these rough times challenged us, we pulled together and vowed to stay unified in our efforts to meet our objectives. We stay together. Oh, but with bowed heads and solemn hearts, we would move on to the backup venue on the tour. Remember now, the show must go on. The next stop on our tour was Grandma Carolyn. Now, Grandma Carolyn is our auntie, but we grew up calling her Grandma. She's Dorinda's actual grandmother and who she was living with at the time. We would stay at Grandma's house, but it wasn't as fun as Auntie Hazel's house. This particular venue did not have all the pizzazz and didn't have much flair. Apparently, craft services didn't get the memo about our combined affinity for good cereal, and there was always Chef Boyardee for lunch the next day. I hated Chef Boyardee. And you know what? I still do. Thank goodness I didn't know about strongly worded letters back then. I'm pretty sure Grandma Carolyn wouldn't have taken any letter from me. about our collective culinary preferences? Well, probably not at all. Actually, I'm pretty certain that I wouldn't be alive to write this book if I had mumbled the word. And that's just the God's honest truth, people. The acoustics in Grandma Carolyn's house were terrible. I managed to always get singled out about how loud I was being. I wasn't loud per se. I just hadn't really embraced my inside voice yet. So I may or may not have sounded louder than I actually was. Plus, if she was that easy to wake up, then maybe it was time for her to get up anyway. Clearly, these were just my thoughts. And I would not be alive today if those words ever passed my lips and came out my mouth. I always took my talking to, you know what I'm saying, in stride. But I remember feeling frustrated to the point that I wondered why I stayed over there in the first place. It always circled back to the cousins, though. I stayed and got fussed out and would get fussed out over and over again if that meant that I would get to be with Antarius and Duranda. Turns out my love for them proved to be stronger than any momentary discomfort, bland cereal, and even nasty old Chef Boyardee red goop and mystery meat. Oh, she used to serve us that all the time. It was really a tragedy. I started fasting early in life, you guys. Okay. If we were together, everything was good, even when it wasn't. Now, there were times when we tried to sell the ticket to the "Can we spend the night at your house? We'll be good" tour, and nobody was buying. And desperate times call for desperate measures. We were many things, tenacious being one. And when those dark times were upon us, serious decisions had to be considered, sacrifices had to be made, and intense strategies had to be executed. Turns out I was strategic even at a young age. I don't think I realized that, but now thinking back, clearly I was. Down and completely out of options. When nobody said yes, that meant we had to convince somebody without children at all, somebody who didn't have any kids, to take in all three of us. This wasn't easy. And as a result, the venue didn't have all the amenities we desired when we stayed together. Homes without kids our age were a very difficult sell. We asked if we could stay at Pop's house with Uncle Charles. This was roughing it. There was no frill cereal, no electronics, no cable. Heck, there wasn't even a TV in the living room. It wasn't a complete bust, though, because there was always something we could get into. For one, Pop had a piano, and we were actually allowed to play it. My Uncle Charles had a few harmonicas, and we could use, and even a tambourine. Now that I think about it, we used our imagination more there than at any other house. It's because we ain't have nothing. As I mentioned before, breakfast was a miss, but the snacks and dinner were supreme. We always had our pick of sausage, cheese, and cracker gift boxes, the kind with the little strawberry candy with the strawberry liquidy center. We would slice the sausage and use the little mustards and other sauces. For dinner, we usually had some dish with rice, because my Uncle Charles could cut rice, or we had spaghetti. But we had spaghetti with more sauce than noodles. This was a win. Did I mention the chocolate milk? There was literally chocolate milk by the gallon. I didn't understand why they always had chocolate milk in the fridge because they didn't have any kids. It was strange to me, but I didn't question it. I simply enjoyed it. Hanging out with my cousins was the best. We did fun things together, got in trouble together, fought with each other. We also fought for each other if necessary. When Duranda was about 8, though, she moved to Germany with her dad, who was in the military. We missed her, but there was never a shortage of kids to play with in our neighborhood. So Terrace and I did have other friends that we weren't related to. You know what I'm saying? After school, once all our homework was done, we could go outside and there was always somebody to play with, chat with, do whatever. I love the block I lived on. Like, I'm from the project, y'all, but I love the block I lived on. There were ladies who sold frozen cups. Drop in the chat if you lived in a neighborhood where they sold frozen cups, candy apples, ice cream, pickles, hot sausages. Did y'all live in a neighborhood like that? You could just go up the street. You didn't have to go to the corner store. You could get just about anything for a quarter, and you can get everything for 50 cents. Sure, that was good. Back in those days, you didn't need to go to the corner store to get your junk food fix. You could just walk right down the street and get whatever you wanted. All you needed was spare change, and you could walk away with an entire school with an entire after school snack that fueled your next few hours of playtime before the streetlights came on and you had to go home. The only problem was that I had to go home so early. All the other kids knew it too. I was the first kid to leave the fun outside and head home. I also wasn't allowed to leave the neighborhood like some of the other kids my age. Most of them got to ride their bikes to the park up the street or hang out at the youth center, which was a little further away from where we lived. I was stuck. Yep, stuck like Chuck, confined to the limits of my neighborhood and whoever else was quarantining with me while all the other kids were off exploring. Now, in my mama's defense, I was still in elementary school, so maybe leaving the neighborhood wasn't the best idea. When I was in the second grade, my mama was diagnosed with cancer. I remember being afraid because I thought she was going to die. There was a secretary at my elementary school who I liked a lot. She was kind, funny, and she gave me candy. So I would just pop in to visit her from time to time. One day, I went to visit her and she wasn't there. She had passed away. She had cancer. When I heard my mother had cancer, I immediately made the connection and thought for sure she would die too. I know this took like a quick dark turn, right? Stay with me. Stay with me, y'all. Okay. My dad took care of us while my mother had surgery. And when here, you need to get the book so you know that I'm talking about my stepdad and what the situation was with my stepdad and my real dad and all of that. But when I say my dad here, I'm talking about my stepdad. My dad took care of us while my mother had surgery and during her recovery. Do you believe that homes have a feel to them? Our home became an empty, colder shell of its former self. It was home, but it was off. Not as warm. It's hard to explain. It was home, but at the same time, it wasn't. I thought the moment she returned home, things would go back to normal, but they didn't. Not right away, anyway. After surgery, she couldn't really get out of bed, and there was a long tube that came from under the covers that led to a bag filled with a yellow liquid. Yeesh. She was tired, but she was alive, and that was better than the alternative as far as I was concerned. Plus, my dad tried to pick up the slack. He didn't play games with me or anything, but he did cook. His favorite dish to make was pork chops baked with tomatoes and onions. It was not a pretty sight. The pork chops were all white. I don't know if you've ever seen baked pork chops, but they are all white, swimming in this like pinkish juice created by the tomatoes. All good cooks know the only way to cook and serve pork chops is to fry them until they are golden brown and serve them with green beans and mashed potatoes with gravy. Duh. Apparently, my dad didn't get the memo because every time he made pork chops, which was a lot, he never once bothered to properly prepare them. Despite his struggles in the kitchen, he did his best to make sure everything ran like clockwork. Spending more time with my dad meant we were also able to spend more time with my dad's family. Mario, my youngest brother, and I got to spend time at Grandma Annie Lee's house. Our aunties were there, our uncles were there because they were like younger. They were like maybe in their 20s or maybe they were in their teens. My aunt Sarah is younger than me. So when we went to stay with my grandma, it was kids that were like younger there, right? Older than us, but still young. My dad's sisters were much younger than he was. They seemed more like cousins than aunties. I love staying with them during the weekend and for days on end in the summer. Those summer days in Cocoa Beach with my grandma and aunts were amazing. Grandma made it her top priority to spoil us rotten. She knew just how to do it too. We could eat whatever we wanted, and we pretty much had full reign over the land, access to all the spoils. This, my friends, this was heaven. This is where people need to be spending the night at, just right there at my grandma's house. My grandma transformed her kitchen into a restaurant, ready to take our breakfast, lunch, and dinner orders every day during our stay. She would cook pancakes, biscuits, grits, sausage, ham, bacon, and we could eat cereal while we waited on her to finish cooking breakfast. This wasn't the only meal like that. No, it was this way all day for every meal. Oh, that was good living right there. Did I mention the snacks? The glorious and delicious. I don't have to share any with Mario or anyone else. Let me do that one again. Did I mention the snacks? The glorious and delicious. I don't have to share any with Mario or anyone else or ask for them because they were my own personal snacks. Snacks! Child. They were available 24 hours a day, literally. You didn't have to worry about a shortage either because if you happened to eat an entire box of ice cream sandwiches in 2 days, they would be replenished post haste. We did, however, have to go to Kingdom Hall. With every bit of sunshine, it's a little rain. We had to go to Kingdom Hall, which was very different from the church experience I was used to. I wasn't sure what to make of it all. It was so quiet. Even the decorations were quiet. No one spoke above what seemed like a whisper. There wasn't anything for me to occupy my mind with, so I often struggled to stay awake. Everything about it was odd to me, but it was a small price to pay for all the fun I had while I was visiting my dad's family. Whenever I think about my childhood, I have to try hard to remember the things that weren't so great. It's like I learned early on to remember the good, learn from the bad, and throw out the rest. My childhood, in my personal opinion, was basically lit. I was surrounded by family who loved me, parents who took care of me, and the best friend cousins in the projects. Okay. The next chapter is fighting, sex, and dating. Oh my, which I'm not going to read. You need to get the book yourself. I hope that you have enjoyed this. I'm reading my book. You know what I'm saying? I hope that you enjoy this. I'm reading my book situation. And this series is going to continue during the summer. Now, listen, let me just get something straight real quick. I'm not going to be reading from my book next week. I'm not going to be reading from my book every week like that. I know that is what somebody, Amber, would like for me to do so that she don't have to actually read it. It's really sad when you're best friends and both their names start with A, Amber, haven't read your book. But you know what? As long as I got King Jesus, I don't need nobody else. When you can't get your own friends to read your book, it might mean it's not a good book. But that's a lie. This book is so good. It's such a great book. So the rest of this series is not going to be me reading the book. I'm not going to read the book. Every week there will be a different aspect of me talking about the book, lessons from the book, teaching from the book, concepts, the process, the writing process, the publishing process, the experience after, and what this book has allowed me to do as a result of writing the book, what writing and self-publishing this book has allowed me to do, the platform it's created for me, and it opens so many doors. And so we'll just be talking about that during the book reading series. I hope that you will come back next week, Wednesday at 7:30 for sure to, catch this summer book reading series. If you have any questions during any of the weeks, be sure to just drop them in the chat. I'm going to do a special Q&A. I'm going to do a special Q&A video. And I also want to do something really fun. Maybe I could do a giveaway, or maybe somebody else who has a YouTube channel. Maybe we can collaborate and you can interview me about the book. I think that would be cool. You can interview me on my channel. I think that'd be really cool. But you have to have read the book. If you didn't read the book, you're not eligible. So get the book, read the book. If there are any questions that you had, as a reader, you read the book and you were like, oh my gosh, I wish I could talk to her. I wish I could ask her this about the book. Then you should hit me up and be like, hey girl, I want to interview about your book. I read the book. I want to talk about it. And so I will be here for it. I was going to say something else about the book other than the fact that it's amazing and you can get your copy. If you go to the website, if you get it from my website, you can get an autographed copy. You can also get it from Amazon. You'll probably get it quicker from Amazon. The price is the same. It's $25, but I can autograph it for you. And every when I sign it, it's different. It's not the same for everybody. I'm not like that. I'm going to pray about what I should write to you. I'm going to write you something great and phenomenal. Okay. All right, that's it for my channel. Please let me know how you would like. I really want to know what y'all think about the content that I create. So drop in the chat. Let me know. Give me some suggestions of some of the series that you hope that I do. Since I'm going to be doing series now on Wednesday nights, which I absolutely love. Okay, that is it for me. I want you to head on over to the A&O channel as TGIW continues. But don't do that before you like the video, drop your comment, share the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let me put that back up here real quick before I have to go. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right. I love y'all. Thank you so much for hanging out. Like, I do not take it lightly that y'all spend Wednesday night with us. I actually love it. All right.